All right, today is a potentially sad day. I have this feeling that there's a big problem with this hive. This is my Italian hive. This was adopted from my neighbor last fall. Brought it down here in December, and this queen survived the winter. So after I adopted this hive, it was like maybe a frame and a half of bees, medium-sized frames, almost no brood, and no honey stores. And she was up over the hill. I started feeding her. She started laying. They stored up to 20 frames of food and brood in about 3 or 4 weeks last fall. She made it through the winter. 2 other hives that were right here died, and she survived. And then this spring she started laying in April, and she's been laying up until 2 weeks ago. I did see eggs in there. There was quite a few eggs, and it was a decent pattern. But since then, I've seen very little activity on this hive. It has been chilly though, so I don't know. We are in a chilly, wet pattern right now with the weather. Today is a beautiful day. It's like the warmest day we've had in a while. There's a chance she just stopped laying or slowed down laying because it was just cold. And she was only laying enough eggs that she could keep warm, or that her hive could keep warm. So it was 2 weeks ago that I took this hive apart and I rearranged the frames. I put the brood down on the bottom. I moved the honey and the empty frames up to the top box here, and there was definitely a pattern of eggs, but it was very small and it was just a little worrying. So I don't know what I'm going to find in here. What I'm expecting to find is a queen that's not laying, or that's laying in a very spotty pattern, or I don't know what we're going to find. Maybe some queen cells, maybe some supersedure cells, but I think we're gonna have to decide on what to do next with this hive. So that's what today's all about. All right, let's see what they're doing down here. Still a tiny little cluster. Same amount of honey as 2 weeks ago. A lot of pollen coming in. The workers are working. The foragers are working. Okay, ton of pollen on here. A lot of pollen. They're packing it in. All right, this is the frame the queen is going to be on, probably. I really want to see an egg pattern here. Queen is right there. This queen is a survivor. There are larvae in here. There's a decent patch of brood. I do not see any eggs though. But they're all over the brood. Like I said, there's larvae in there, but there's not any very young larvae. They look a little bit older. All right, I gotta see some eggs on this frame. No eggs. Well, nope, there are eggs. There are some eggs, and there are some little commas in there. Okay, there are eggs in here. Very few, but there are eggs, and there are some young larvae. All right. Nothing has changed in 2 weeks. It's like the same amount of bees, the same size larva, the same size cluster, and there's doesn't look like very many new eggs from 2 weeks ago. All right, my instinct was to put them into a nuke, to just get everything really condensed, but they know this box. I don't want to mess with them anymore. I'm going to just take out the empty frames here, and I'm going to put in frames they're actually sitting on over there. They do not need all this space. All right, these bees now have honey here. These are all honey frames. This is a frame of pulled comb and nectar, and pulled comb and nectar. And then brood on these two. This one is just a pulled frame. Pollen frame. This is a pollen frame. So they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. They're just incredibly slow, and I have a feeling that the queen is slowing down. So we have a failing queen. This queen has been a rock star. She came from a horrible situation. I adopted her. I brought her in here, fed her. She was a total champ last fall, and she survived the winter. And not only did she survive the winter, but she also kicked out eggs and brood and kept this hive going for the last 3 months of a really rough spring. Got the population up to what it is now, and she's, you know, she did her job. She did a great job. But I think she's at the end of her time. And we have a few options. Option number one would be to dispatch the queen that's here and let my bees try and produce a new queen from the few eggs that are in the hive and the few sort of larvae and eggs that are in there now. That is sort of a hit or miss option for me. They very well could produce a queen cup. I didn't see any evidence of any queen cups yet. They seem to be just hanging out. So if there's no queen, they may produce a emergency queen out of what they have in the box, and then that queen would be mated by, you know, wild local drones, and then we have a sort of unknown queen coming back. Came from the genetics that are in the box, but we don't know who she's going to mate with. And if she mates, it's going to be like a month before we start seeing any brood again. So we're talking into July before we have new brood in this box, which is a long time. So option number two would be to get a frame of brood from another hive and put it in here, let them try and do an emergency queen from some fresh brood. The kicker there is I don't have another Italian hive to steal brood from. I do have 2 Russian hives with lots of brood. So that could be interesting, but it would also be an experiment. It would also be, you know, a month before we see any fresh bees coming in here. But we could do a Russian frame of brood, take this queen out of here, shake the Russian bees off, put just the Russian brood in here, and see what they do with Russian brood, if they produce a queen from that. Then we would have a Russian queen in here that's made by these bees. Again, there's the time factor. It's going to be a month before anything happens, before we start getting any new eggs, and then it's weeks before we have any new bees in here, and we're talking about late July at that point. So option number 3 is to simply purchase a queen, order a queen that's already mated, and introduce her into the hive. This way we would have, you know, eggs within a week or 2, and we would have new brood in here, and this thing would be off and running in the month of June, which is kind of ideal for our climate. Now in option 3 we have 3 sub-options. 3A would be to just get another Italian queen to put into the Italian hive. We could also introduce a Carniolan queen into the Italian hive and transition into Carniolan bees. Or we could get a Russian queen and introduce a Russian queen into an Italian hive. I have read that this is possible. People do it. It's not 100%, but it is possible to do. Then we would have 3 Russian hives up here with 3 certified Russian queens, and you know, we'd be off and running, and the whole yard would be Russian bees. So that's kind of appealing. I kind of like having variety, but either way, I think we would have a hive that's sort of kicking within a month. We're kind of back up and running here. So those are the three options, and I kind of know what I'm leaning toward, but I want to hear what you have to say in the comments. Little side note here, I did speak to my mentor. He suggested just introducing a new queen. That's sort of the standard thing to do, and it's obviously sort of an appealing thing to do, but I want to hear some other opinions. I just want to talk about it in the comments. See what people have to say, see if they've had any success introducing Russian brood into a hive, or basically changing the breed of bee by introducing a different kind of queen. I think his suggestion was just put another Italian queen in there and go. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about introducing different types of queens, and if I should go with a Russian, a Carniolan, or an Italian queen. So, it is a sad day. I love this queen. She did her job. She was a total rock star. But we have to move forward. So let me know what you think in the comments. I would love your opinions. And let's just sort of hash things out. And we'll go from there. Once this video is live, we're going to talk about it for a few days, which will bring us to sort of next weekend, when I will have made my decision by then. And we'll be doing something with this hive. So thanks for watching. Comment below. Have a great day.